Before the first star burned or a single prayer was spoken, one act of defiance shook the foundations of eternity. No armies marched. No sword was raised. Only a silent refusal, a single will that dared to say no to the inevitable. This is more than an ancient legend. It is the origin of every question you've ever whispered in the dark. Do I have to obey? Could I choose another path? In this story, you won't just witness the first rebellion, you'll feel it. You'll taste the metallic air before lightning splits the sky. You'll stand in the endless courts of light and hear the universe hold its breath. But this isn't just history of angels and fire, it's about you. Because that quiet spark didn't stay in heaven. It seeped into every heartbeat, every decision, every sleepless night when you wonder what freedom really means. Watch closely and you'll discover 3 truths. Choice is older than creation. The first act of will was not human, but it shaped humanity. Temptation rarely shouts. It waits like a low hum beneath your thoughts. Freedom carries weight. Every yes or no sends ripples through worlds you cannot see. As you journey through the 8 sections ahead, you'll see how one silent rebellion became a tide that touches every life. You'll learn how the same whisper that moves stars now moves inside you, how it teaches, tempts, and invites without force. So lean in. The story of the first no is not distant myth. It is the story of every choice you will ever make. The whisper has already begun. Before gardens unfurled their first green, before stars spun their silver threads across a night sky, there was only possibility, weightless, formless, and yet so heavy it pressed against the very idea of breath. No edges, no color, no sound, only a vast, trembling potential waiting to be named. Then came a vibration, not a sound, but a shiver through the fabric of what could be. If eternity had a heartbeat, this was its first pulse. Creation quivered as if anticipating a command not yet spoken. From that luminous nothingness, a figure emerged, fashioned of smokeless fire, his presence bright enough to carve contours into the void. He stood with the calm of someone who knows his own brilliance. Later tongues would call him many names: Lucifer, the morning star; Iblis, the being of flame, the shining one. But now he is only the first to hesitate. A command formed, pure, absolute, inevitable. Bo. It was not a voice, it was reality itself shaping a decree, the way gravity shapes a fall. Every celestial being felt it ripple through their essence, a current impossible to resist. Across the expanse, wings rustled like a single breath of wind. Obedience was as natural as light, except for one. The figure of fire did not move. He did not tremble. He did not kneel. Silence swelled around him until it felt alive, a living pressure against the senses. Light bent subtly, recoiling as if the defiance itself scorched. A hush, heavier than sound, flooded the endless expanse. One refusal, wordless, effortless, rang louder than any cry. Imagine standing there. There is no ground, yet beneath your feet you sense the cold solidity of stone. The air tastes metallic, like the moment before lightning breaks the sky. Your own pulse drums in your ears, startlingly loud against the immense stillness. Every instinct urges reverence, yet the single figure's unyielding posture pulls at something inside you. Curiosity, perhaps even admiration. This is no tantrum, no flash of violence. It is the quiet certainty of self. I am fire, I am more than dust, and I will not bend. The refusal is a seed, and the universe feels its weight. A stone dropped into an infinite lake sends ripples racing beyond measure, through galaxies unborn, through minds not yet awakened, through every choice that will ever seek the taste of freedom. Ancient texts will later grope for language to capture this moment. The Qur'an will remember a jinn who said, "I am better than clay." Isaiah will lament, "How you have fallen, morning star, son of the dawn." Zoroastrian lore will speak of Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit who opposes creation's order. Different cultures, different eras, all tracing their shadows back to this instant of unbowed flame. Pause now and feel the air tighten. The silence is no longer empty. It vibrates with unspent consequence. Around the figure of fire, other beings of light falter. A glance lingers too long. A question flickers where no question should exist. Could I choose as he has chosen? The possibility itself is dangerous. One heartbeat of defiance, one unspoken number, and eternity tilts ever so slightly toward a story that will echo through every world yet to be. The spark has been struck. Nothing that follows will remain untouched. The fracture. The universe holds its breath. The single spark of refusal, struck in perfect silence, begins to radiate outward like cracks in glass. It is not loud. It is not even visible at first. Yet creation feels it, a pressure that does not belong, a subtle warping of harmony. Every vibration of light becomes an echo of that unspoken no. Wings that moments ago beat in effortless unison falter mid-stroke. The bright host of angels, flawless in their purpose, sense something they have no language for: hesitation. One tilts ahead as though listening for a sound that shouldn't exist. Another lowers her gaze, a flicker of thought, daring to wonder what thought even means. And at the center stands the one who will soon carry 1,000 names: Lucifer, Iblis, the morning star. But now he is nameless, a singular point of defiance around which all else must orbit. He does not move, but the stillness around him has a gravity of its own, pulling awareness toward him as a black hole drinks light. The command to bow still vibrates through the cosmos, pure and uncompromised. It is law. It is inevitability. Yet the figure of fire remains unbent, his silence louder than thunder. No sword is drawn, no proclamation made, only the certainty, I will not bend. Reality itself shivers. The endless radiance that filled every direction recoils as if it, too, fears the courage of a single will. It is the first hairline fracture in the flawless mirror of creation, a line invisible to mortal eyes, but deep enough to change the future of every star and soul. Imagine standing in that chamber of light. The brilliance dims by a breath. Colors sharpen until they sting. You taste metal at the back of your throat. The air feels thinner, stretched across a void that did not exist a moment ago. A thought stirs unbidden. Could choice be more powerful than command? Far beyond this court, the tremor slips through realms unborn. Worlds yet to ignite feel a faint disturbance on a distant timeline. Dust that will one day call itself human shivers in dreams it cannot yet dream. Ancient voices will later attempt to capture the moment. The book of Enoch will speak of watchers whose hearts turned as they gazed. Rabbinic legends will whisper of a shining angel who questioned the Maker's plan. Each scripture will dress the fracture in different names, but all will point to this single instant when obedience discovered it had an opposite. The loyal press their foreheads to the luminous floor, desperate to hold the pattern. But the idea of choice now exists, and once born, it cannot be unmade. It drifts through the ranks like static, igniting quiet sparks of wonder, fear, and dangerous admiration. The figure of fire lifts his eyes, no challenge, no plea, simply the calm of one who has chosen. That look alone cleaves eternity. Light itself wavers. The silence deepens until it feels almost audible, a low hum beneath the bones of reality. The fracture has opened. Nothing, not the stars to come, nor the creatures who will name them, can remain untouched. The first rebellion is no longer a spark. It is a widening fault line, patient and unstoppable. The pull you are there, not as a guest, not as a stranger, more like a thought the cosmos forgot to hide. The brilliance of heaven stretches in every direction, yet your awareness narrows to the single figure who will not bow. The silence around him is heavy enough to bend light. The air tastes of iron and cold stone, though there is no air, no stone. A phantom memory presses against your skin, as if the architecture of some ancient cathedral has been draped across infinity. Every breath, if you are breathing, carries a metallic tang, sharp as the moment before lightning splits the sky. Around you, hosts of angels hover in ordered ranks, each radiant with a light so pure it should admit no shadow. But shadow is here, faint as the thin edge of an eclipse. Wings that once beat in perfect rhythm hesitate, uncertain. A glance flickers sideways, quick as static. An eyelid blinks too slowly, betraying the first tremor of curiosity. It begins as admiration. The figure of fire stands effortless and calm, an unspoken challenge to inevitability itself. Something in that composure draws the eye. The very refusal feels magnetic, a gravity of autonomy. The angel to your left, if direction even exists, leans almost imperceptibly toward the rebel. The movement is so slight it might be a trick of vision, yet you sense the thought forming. Could I choose as he has chosen? Another catches the flicker and shudders, as though the question were contagious. You feel it too. A pulse that is not your heartbeat threads through you like music you almost remember. Choice, not obedience, not compulsion. Choice, dangerous, dazzling, whispers in your bones. Scripture will later tell of watchers whose hearts turned as they gazed, a single line in the book of Enoch that barely hints at the weight of this moment. It is not merely rebellion. It is fascination, the ache of freedom brushing against eternal servitude. One spark of defiance has become a beacon. The cosmos seems to tighten around the possibility. Colors sharpen, edges grow brittle. The silence takes on a texture, humming like distant thunder. You sense that if someone were to speak, the sound might shatter the entire sky. The nameless rebel remains motionless, but his presence expands, filling every pause, every breath. He does not beckon, he does not need to. The act of standing, of not kneeling, is invitation enough. You catch the eyes of another angel across the vast court. For an instant, you share the same unspoken question. What if we could choose? The thought is intoxicating. It tastes like the first bite of forbidden fruit, sweet and sharp. No decree can erase it now. The pull has begun, not through command, but through the simple radiance of autonomy. Admiration deepens to fascination. Fascination leans toward loyalty. A single silent no becomes a tide. You feel it rising, this invisible current of possibility. It swirls around the rebel like a storm made of quiet, brushing every mind it touches with the idea that obedience might not be destiny. That freedom, once imagined, demands to be real. And in that still electric hush, the first followers are born, wordlessly, almost unwillingly, drawn by a gravity stronger than light. The pull is complete. The fracture widens. The shadow, a hush, slides through heaven like a breath you almost hear. It is not darkness. It is not even absence. It is presence, a soft, invisible current that threads between columns of light and across endless courts of flame. The great expanse, once radiant beyond description, feels newly alive, as though something unseen has stepped into the room. No trumpet sounds, no door opens. The change is subtler than wind, yet you sense it on the back of your neck, warm as exhaled air. A faint vibration hums beneath creation's song, low and steady, the kind of tone you feel in bone more than ear. The figure of fire still stands motionless, but the silence around him now carries weight. It stretches beyond the circle of angels and into corridors of radiance that have never known a shadow. Light itself seems to hesitate, as if unsure whether to blaze or dim. One by one, eyes lift from the floor. A few wings half unfold, then close again. No one speaks, yet a question spreads like water seeping through marble. Could I stand as he stands? This is the moment ancient myths will struggle to name. Sumerian tablets will later murmur of a first disobedience, a presence that moved without footstep. Zoroastrian lore will call it the gnawing of Angra Mainyu, the spirit that opposes order. Different words, same truth. An unseen force now lingers where only obedience lived. The presence does not command, it does not tempt aloud. It simply exists, and existence itself becomes a challenge. Choice is no longer a rumor. It is a texture in the air, a quiet pressure against the heart. The angels feel it first, then you feel it too, a pulse beneath the skin, quick and warm, like the thrill before a storm. Imagine walking endless corridors of light and sensing someone just behind you, though every glance finds only brilliance. That is the shadow, not darkness, but possibility, the awareness of an alternative. It is warm, almost comforting, like a hand resting lightly on your shoulder. Not a threat, an invitation. The rebel does not move. He need not. His very stillness shapes the space around him. The shadow spreads on its own, a tide of quiet autonomy, eroding certainty grain by grain. Even the loyal, the ones who press their faces to the luminous floor, feel the pull. They tell themselves it is only curiosity, but curiosity, once awakened, is a door no decree can seal. Your own thoughts sharpen. The air tastes faintly of copper and rain. Something inside you whispers that obedience is no longer the only song. Freedom, unclaimed, undefined, glimmers at the edge of consciousness. No words mark the moment when the shadow fully enters. There is only that subtle warmth, that impossible nearness, and with it a realization that the cosmos has already changed. Where choice exists, order can never again be absolute. The rebel remains silent. The presence hums, and across the infinite halls of heaven, the first true quiet wind moves, patient, relentless, unforgettable. The shadow has arrived. Earth trembles. Far beneath the endless courts of light, a small blue world turns in its cradle of dark. Its seas breathe silver under a newborn moon. Forests stir with the quiet rhythm of sap and tide. The first cities, still only dreams within the dust, sleep in the mind of time. Yet already the shadow has found a path. The tremor begins so faintly that the stars themselves seem to listen for it. Not a quake of rock or fire. This is deeper, older, a vibration of will. The refusal, once a single spark in heaven, slides down the ladder of creation like a hidden current. It weaves through atmosphere and ocean, through cloud and stone, through the soft dark of future wombs. The planet inhales a thought it cannot name. In a silent valley, a child stirs in uneasy sleep. No words, only a dream of standing tall while the world demands kneeling. On a distant coast, a fisherman pauses mid-stroke, a sudden daring quickening his heart. What if I cast where the elders forbid? Far away, a ruler who has not yet been born will one day halt before a law carved in cold marble and feel a strange sweetness in disobedience. Each heartbeat carries an echo of that first no, so subtle it feels personal, as if born inside the listener rather than passed down from the stars. Above, the rebel does nothing. He neither speaks nor descends. Presence is enough. The idea has already leapt the gap between worlds, traveling faster than light because it rides on choice itself. The ground beneath your own feet seems to hold a different weight, as though listening. Wind moves through grass with a hush that is not mere weather. You taste iron on the back of your tongue, the flavor of an ancient decision. Legends will later scatter like seeds to explain these shivers of defiance. Some will blame wandering spirits, others the caprice of gods. The oldest scrolls of Mesopotamia will tell of a restless breath that teaches mortals the sweetness of rebellion. Prophets will warn of tempters who sow disquiet in the marrow, yet none will capture the full truth. The echo began before humanity ever learned to speak. Watch carefully. A young hunter lifts his eyes from the path, sensing that the sky itself watches back. An artisan chips stone into forbidden shapes, compelled by a muse that feels half his own, half other. Their gestures are small, almost forgettable, but each is a thread in a widening tapestry of will. The tremor grows, not as sound or spectacle, but as atmosphere, a subtle charge in the blood of all who breathe. It does not force, it invites, and once invited, it cannot be banished. Even the earth seems to recognize the change. Rivers run with a deeper murmur. Mountains hold their silence a fraction too long. Night animals pause mid-prowl, alert to something older than instinct. The rebellion was never meant to stay in the halls of heaven. Its seed was always destined to take root in soil and sinew, to live inside every decision where obedience wrestles with desire. Listen closely. The ground beneath you is not still. It remembers the first refusal. It carries the whisper forward. The earth trembles, and humanity dreams. The tempter's lesson. No trumpet, no flash of conquest. The rebellion does not arrive with armies. It waits. Patience is its first art. Pride does not shout. It hums, low and constant, like the resonance of a hidden string. While stars wheel and seasons turn, the present simply remains, a subtle gravity shaping thought. Across ages, humans awaken to its nearness without knowing its name. A farmer pauses before a field and wonders if he might keep a harvest for himself instead of the village. A queen contemplates a treaty and feels the sudden sweetness of breaking it. Each believes the impulse is wholly their own. That is the lesson. The rebel does not lift a hand. He need not. Influence moves like scent on a breeze, unseen, undeniable, a whisper that feels like self-invention. Perhaps you deserve more. Perhaps the rule is wrong. Ideas masquerade as private sparks, but each carries the distant echo of that first refusal. Ancient texts will circle this mystery. Hebrew sages will speak of a serpent whose voice is soft as leaves. Greek poets will imagine daemons that lean close to the mortal ear. Mystics from deserts and mountain caves will write of an adversary who tempts without force, whose victory is consent freely given. They are describing the same quiet tutor. His classroom is the human heart. His method is suggestion. No chains, no threats, only a gentle pressure toward autonomy. He knows the power of curiosity, the itch of possibility. A single question precisely placed can tilt an entire destiny. Imagine a crowded market at dusk. A merchant fingers a coin too beautiful to surrender. No voice commands, yet a thought blooms. Keep it. No one will know. The thought tastes like discovery, not invasion. The merchant smiles faintly, believing the idea a private triumph. Another lesson learned. Patience, presence. Those are the tools. The rebel understands that true power lies not in forcing a choice, but in making choice feel inevitable, even righteous. Freedom offered as a gift becomes the sweetest snare. You feel it even now, a quiet vibration beneath the everyday clatter of your mind. Not a word, not a shout, just the low hum of possibility. Could you? Should you? Why not? It is so subtle you might mistake it for your own daring. The tempter's brilliance is not in dramatic victories, but in the slow erosion of certainty. Rules become suggestions. Sacred becomes negotiable. The human will, proud of its independence, walks willingly into the lesson. And still, he does not speak. He waits in the pause between breaths, in the flicker before decision. His triumph is the moment you claim the thought as yours and act without ever sensing the whisper behind it. Pride, patient and radiant, does not need to conquer. It only needs to teach that obedience is optional. That is the tempter's lesson. A presence so quiet it sounds like yourself, so patient it feels eternal, so close it cannot be found. The tide, silence thickens, until it feels almost audible, a pressure on the ribs, a hum that lives behind the ears. The cosmos holds its breath. One refusal, long past, has become something larger. An atmosphere. Light wavers, not a violent flicker, but a hesitation, like a candle unsure of its own flame. Every corner of heaven seems to tilt, as though the very architecture of creation senses an undertow it cannot name. Among the angels, the stillness grows heavy. Those who have clung to obedience feel the drag of that unseen current. Wings twitch as if caught in a subtle wind. Eyes that once reflected pure radiance now glint with unspoken questions. What began as fascination hardens into contemplation. Why must we kneel? What if we chose otherwise? The thought is as quiet as dust falling, but it spreads. The rebellion is no longer a single act. It is a field of gravity. Like the moon coaxing the ocean, the solitary defiance pulls at every soul within reach. No command issues forth, no invitation, no threat. Still, the tide rises. Far below, earth stirs in sympathy. Dreamers wake with unaccountable unease. A child defies a parent and feels a sudden, intoxicating freedom. A scholar questions a sacred law and senses a strange exhilaration. They call it growth, courage, curiosity. They do not hear the ancient echo beneath the heartbeat of their thoughts. Texts scattered across cultures catch fragments of this truth. The Dead Sea Scrolls speak of a wind of confusion that moves where it wills. Babylonian tablets warn of spirits who bend desire without a blade. Zoroastrian hymns whisper of Angramenu, patient as stone, whose victory is the slow turning of minds. Different names, one tide. Picture a great ocean at night. From shore, the waves look harmless, each ripple insignificant. But beneath the surface, a current gathers strength, unseen yet irresistible. The faithful stand on their cliffs of certainty, unaware that the ground itself is eroding grain by grain. The rebel does not need to speak. His presence alone exerts pressure, like deep water on the lungs. Choice becomes invitation. Hesitation feels like courage. The tide teaches that to drift is natural, to question is noble, to refuse is destiny. Even the steadfast begin to feel it, a slight imbalance when they pray, a flicker of pride when they bow. Their loyalty no longer feels effortless. Obedience is no longer instinct, but decision. And decision is the very soil where rebellion thrives. Above and below, creation leans toward the pull. The ocean of defiance swells, silent and unstoppable. It does not crash, it seeps. It does not shout, it surrounds. This is the tide, a quiet force that needs no storm, a current that moves without a map, a gravity that makes refusal feel like freedom. Listen carefully. That faint roar you think is your own pulse. It is the sound of the ancient water rising, the unending whisper. The tide has risen, and still there is no crash, only the slow, relentless swell. Light bends, hesitant. Shadows gather in corners where none should exist, soft as breath, yet heavy as stone. Creation itself seems to lean inward, listening. The first refusal has become more than memory. It is pattern. It is law. Across the heavens, silence vibrates like a struck chord. Angels who once stood in effortless obedience now weigh each movement, aware of the gravity of choice. Every wing beat sounds louder in the hush. Every thought carries the echo of that ancient number. What was a single act now feels like a principle woven into the fabric of existence. Far below, earth reflects the same hidden music. A child debates whether to tell the truth. A judge considers a secret bribe. A lover hesitates before a small betrayal. Each believes the decision is private, born of human will. Yet beneath those moments lies the same quiet rhythm that began when fire refused to bow to dust. Scripture catches only glimpses of this presence. The Qur'an speaks of the whisperer who slips into hearts of mankind. Hebrew poets call it the still small voice that tempts as well as comforts. Mystics from Persia to the Andes describe a breath that bends resolve, a hush that invites daring. Different names, one endless murmur. The rebel himself remains motionless, yet his influence expands like rings on black water. He does not command, he does not plead. He simply is, and his being is suggestion. The whisper requires no words. It moves through intuition, through the faint thrill of possibility. What if? The thought arrives wearing your own accent, so you never doubt its origin. Imagine standing alone in a quiet room. No sound, but your breathing. Then an idea. Small, harmless, tempting. You cannot prove where it came from, and you never will. That is the brilliance of the unending whisper. It does not invade. It feels native. History will chronicle wars, empires, revolutions, yet the whisper remains the greater force. It needs no armies, only the human mind. One choice at a time, it rewrites destiny. Every age rediscovers it and gives it fresh names: ego, instinct, ambition, freedom. All the while, the same patient presence waits, smiling through centuries. This is the final lesson of the rebellion. It was never just a moment in some distant heaven. It is a current that flows through every decision, every desire, every heartbeat. Pride first. Whisper second. Consequence always pause now. Listen, the room is not silent. Behind the tick of clocks and the rhythm of blood, something stirs, a subtle vibration that asks nothing, yet invites everything. It is not outside you. It is not far away. It is here. The rebellion endures as a presence, patient and eternal. It does not sleep. It does not age. It waits, as it always has, for the next willing thought. The whisper is already in the room. Perhaps it has always been.